Get on your feet. It's Curd and Long. Hosted by Sparky, Fifer, and Ryan Horvat.
Hey, it's Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM, The Fan, beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Follow me on Twitter at Sparky Radio. He is Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight, a part of the BetQL Radio Network, weeknights with Trisha Crick and Nick Ashu as the games are going on. You listen to them for some in-game betting advice, give you some tips on the West Coast games coming up that night, maybe some future that you can lay down as well. Follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. And Ryan, lots to get to this week. Obviously, De'Vondre Campbell, the story from over the weekend with his comments. Before we start getting into his comments specifically, I want to get your thought. So as he goes on his Twitter, I don't know, I'd call it a tirade, but kind of opening up the curtains and letting everybody into what this was all about when he was in Green Bay. Do you think automatically the view is, dude, this dude's just bitter and pissed off that he got cut, and that's what this is all about? Don't take anything he says legitimately and let's just move on? Or do you think people look at this and go, damn, that's what really was going on in Green Bay?
I think, like, if you're a Green Bay fan, you're probably looking at it like, this is just a guy. Like, we've seen this before, though. This is like anybody. What we realize, or should realize, I think, is like a lot of these guys like being in Green Bay, right? Like when Aaron Rodgers came out last year and he's like, or 2 years ago, whenever it was that he did that interview, and he's like, guys only come to play in Green Bay because they want to play with me. Like, that's not true. Guys want to go play with Jordan Love now. And sure, maybe like that's not the first place that you think of when you are going to be drafted, Green Bay, Wisconsin. But like when you're a Packer, it seems like a lot of these guys like the culture, and it makes sense, man. Like, look at that stadium compared to all these other NFL stadiums and the tradition. And, you know, you wonder, like, are guys always going to buy into it? I don't know. I mean, like, for the most part, guys that come to Green Bay, whether it's free agency or they get drafted, they don't want to leave. When they do leave, most of them get a little pissy. Not the guys that get taken care of financially. Like David Bakhtiari doesn't have anything bad to say about Green Bay, right? Even Rodgers. Rodgers has never said anything bad about the organization, right? He's not bitter about them. Like, maybe he doesn't like Russ Ball and Brian Gutekunst, but I still think he respects Green Bay and all the other people. So we've seen this though with like Greg Jennings in the past. I don't know. There was clearly something weird going on with De'Vondre Campbell, with a lot of these guys on the defensive side of the ball, because like we saw Adrian Amos tweet something out. Remember how it went down with Za'Darius a couple years ago, where that was a really weird last year in Green Bay, where we were like, every week we thought he was coming back, and then he blamed the medical team, right? Isn't that how it all went down? And
pretty much
he was going to play hurt. So I just feel like it's the same for every team, for every organization, right? It's like Green Bay, the way that they're doing things right now, not a whole lot of loyalty. Like Brian Gutekunst, it's like no country for old men, man. Like, when
I disagree. I think there is loyalty. There is loyalty from Gutekunst to number 30. Once you hit 30 or above,
that's what I mean.
Then he falls out of love quickly and moves on to somebody in their 20s. He has loyalty to the number 30. And once you get over that age, unless you're a Hall of Fame quarterback still playing at a high level, he's probably going to start looking to move on and get your replacement.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to say, right? I guess like that's just all. What I'm saying is, like, I mean, all these guys, you know, clearly want to be in Green Bay, but right, like Goot, and also like none of these guys are Goot's guys. We have to remember he doesn't have any loyalty to Aaron Rodgers. He didn't draft him. He didn't have any loyalty to to David Bakhtiari. He didn't draft him. These aren't his guys yet, right? We'll see when it's time to say goodbye to, you know, some of these other guys that he drafts. Is he willing to pull the trigger? I think he's going to be, and I don't always agree with it. I miss the old like Green Bay way. You know, I like Rodgers. I like a lot of these guys, Clay Matthews, that leave. But yeah, like it was time for Clay Matthews to go. They made the right decision trading away Aaron Rodgers.
What about Aaron Jones?
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not going to bitch and complain about cutting a 30-year-old running back. I just wouldn't have spent in the Josh Jacobs deal financially. Works out great, right?
Yeah,
it's all
out after 1 or 2 years.
1 year deal, right? I don't know that I would have put that money towards a 26-year-old running back. If he leads the league in rushing, I'm clearly wrong. I think Aaron Jones is a better running back than Josh Jacobs. And I think he's a better fit for the offense. So I would have rather just paid Aaron Jones and drafted a Blake Corum, who I know you don't love, or, like the next A.J. Dillon replacement, or you just bring back A.J. Dillon, I probably would have just ran it back.
And
I don't
they
think
did bring back A.J. Dillon.
I also do, I hate to be this guy, but I think that what he brings to the locker room is really important. Go back to when, guys are dropping balls on the field and they're putting their head down. He's the first guy up there, pick your head up, man. You'll make a play later on in this game. I think that stuff's really important. I think he was a class act, but he was a 30-year-old running back. So I'm not going to complain about it too much, but I would have brought back Aaron Jones. And this is what Aaron Rodgers was saying about Goot. This isn't Ted Thompson anymore. Also, Ted Thompson wasn't very good at his job the last couple of years, man. So what I'm saying is I can't really judge until after next season and the season after, because I wasn't ready for this rebuild. And then it was never a rebuild. They beat the Cowboys in Dallas, the first team to do that all season long. And they could have beat San Francisco. They played San Francisco better than Rodgers ever played San Francisco. They should have won that game, man. I mean, Jordan Love threw a couple bad interceptions to Greenlaw, who was all over the field. But, next year they're going to be one of the favorites in the NFC. So what I'm saying is clearly something's been going on the defensive side of the ball. Jair's complaining about stuff. Za'Darius was complaining about stuff, but now Joe Barry's gone. This is a new defense, but it was time to move on from De'Vondre Campbell because he sucked the last 2 years, right? Year one, they got lucky with De'Vondre Campbell. That was a career year. That was like Nick Perry, 13 and a half sacks. Then he went back to being Nick Perry. Right. De'Vondre Campbell was never that dude. But that year, when he got the green dot, he made every single tackle. He didn't miss tackles. The year after that, when they brought him back and he got paid some money, dude, he couldn't tackle for crap. He's not good in coverage. It was time for him to go. So, yeah, if he was playing through an injury or whatever it is what it is. All these guys in the league play through injury. You know what I mean? How many injuries do you think Aaron Donald played with? Or TJ Watt is hurt every single year trying to play with an injury. So I think that this is just a disgruntled ex-employee that's upset. He's been on social media the last year and a half. So I don't really take away too much from the De'Vondre Campbell stuff. Now, you know what I mean? If we start hearing more from Jair and Eric Stokes and Preston Smith and Kenny Clark, oh, this is a dumpster fire organization, then I think we have to worry. But it's always just guys on the way out. So it is what it is. I mean, that's the way I look at it, at least.
I want to go back. So the one thing that did happen over the weekend was they bring back A.J. Dillon. So it's Dillon and Josh Jacobs. But my fear now is they're not going to draft a running back. And I still want a damn running back. I don't, if Jalen Wright is there from Tennessee or whatever, there in the third round, I still take him. I don't care that you got the other two dudes, man. I still want to take a running back. And my fear is now the way this is set up is now they'll take a running back, but it won't be till day 3 before they take a running back before this whole thing is said and done. So we'll just have to wait and see.
No, I think they'll take a running back because I think that this is a 1-year deal for Jacobs. And I think the only reason A.J. Dillon's back is because he was guys, I love it so much. I'll literally come back and play for free. You know what I mean? He could have got probably more money and he turned it down. It's hard to be a hater. I'm kind of all in on A.J. Dillon. If he runs, put it this way, man, if A.J. Dillon runs the ball the way that he did the second half of the season, I'm fine with this. But I would have rather had Aaron Jones back. That was kind of heartbreaking, but it is what it is. He's a 30-year-old running back. And I don't care about De'Vondre Campbell. Thank God he's gone, to be honest with you. He's been nothing but a pain in the ass the last 2 years.
De'Vondre Campbell, some of the comments that came up here. Robin Adams, who I'm sure a lot of you follow, who's corner of that Wisconsin Sports Heroics website or whatever, says, what changed from 21 to 22 to 23? Because the scheme sure felt worse every year. And we all know the coach in charge wasn't making any changes. His response was from De'Vondre Campbell, listen, if I would have listened to half the stuff they were telling me, I would have never, in capital letters, went all pro. All year I heard was, can you do this? It'll help the scheme. I kept saying no all year, and look what happened. First team all pro. Fast forward to 22-23 season, I try to be a team guy and play within the system and do what they asked. Be more visual on QB and not look up routes. Back up from the line of scrimmage so I'm not pressing every wide receiver or tight end. Look at what happened. They had me. They had me and Quay out there looking clueless. SMH. Now, this is what I'm interested in finding out. and this is when I wish I had Gary and Leroy still to go to. Like, how many times did they, as professional football players, tell their coach, no, I'm not going to do that? Like, how many times does that occur from a player to a coach where the player simply says, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do what I want to do. It's not going to happen. I'm going to do what I want. First of all, there's no way Gary did it to Forrest Gregg. Like, there's just no way. I mean, Forrest Gregg would have just caught him and said, cool, go play somewhere else. That would have been the end of that conversation. So I don't think Gary did it. Wayne Fonts, Detroit, still don't think Gary did it. Leroy, I mean, I know Leroy now more than I knew Leroy back then. I highly doubt Leroy would say no. But that's not this here. To me, that's the part that blows me away. Like, no, I just told him, no, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing that either. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, that to me is mind blowing. And I would love to know what the coaches were saying about that whole thing. If he kept telling them no every time they asked him to do something.
I could just tell you, like, being around the game my entire life, that nobody ever went up to my grandfather, Gordy Gillespie, and said, no, we're not going to run this scheme. Because you know what they would be doing is they would be off the team or they'd be fourth string. And like his scheme, like the double wing offense or the defense that they ran, like it's kind of like Alabama, man. Like every single year that Saban was there, even if it wasn't his most talented team this year, they're going to win 10 games because of that scheme. And if a guy doesn't want to run that scheme later, dude, that's how those old school guys are. And here's the other thing. We all know that Joe Barry's scheme sucks. But like De'Vondre Campbell, like, bro, like, here's the thing. Even if the scheme sucked, okay, Quay is like just a football player. But Quay is like, I think like the reason that Patrick Queen didn't get more money is because Patrick Queen had a career year playing next to Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith's the brains, right? He's like the green dot. He's going to get everybody set up. That allows Queen just to go out there and be a playmaker.
Right.
That's what Quay needs. And De'Vondre Campbell is clearly like checked out, more worried about social media, more worried about the organization, whatever he's complaining about. Because, okay, even if the scheme sucks, man, and you're saying, no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, the scheme didn't really change under Joe Barry. And also, like, the scheme's the reason that you're missing more tackles than you did when you were an all-pro. You know what I mean? Like, he was in position. Like, if you go back and you watch the all-22, like, he's just all over the place missing tackles. So it's like a guy that's just making excuses. We all know Joe Barry was no good. There's a reason, like, Joe Barry's gone, right? He's no longer the defensive coordinator. And so you're not telling us anything that we don't know about the scheme, but also you weren't very good, man. Like, go look at the Pro Football Focus numbers. Go look at any other, Pro Football Network, whatever you look at. And he was just like all over the place, like a mess. So yeah, I think there's probably some truth that the scheme sucked. And I think that Quay is going to look much better. But like, De'Vondre Campbell was awful. He was really bad. I mean, he had some moments still, but yeah.
De'Vondre Campbell on Quay Walker. Quay is going to be just fine. They just had him thinking too much. He's a dog. You don't make dogs think. You just let them play. He's a great player. I just think this new system will fit him perfectly. So as bitter as he is, he apparently must like the new system that's coming in with Hafley and thinks it'll work for Quay because apparently he's going to take thinking out of the equation for Quay Walker and just to let him play. That is going to be something, Ryan, because if in this new system, Quay Walker goes off and is a Pro Bowler and looks like a completely different player and looks like this unbelievable talent that they thought they were getting and they didn't see under Joe Barry, that's going to be a huge indictment on Joe Barry.
Quay's clearly an athlete. Clearly he can make plays. He's a dude that you want on your team. I like his aggression. I like his ceiling. But I would say this is like a big year for Quay, man, because if we don't see it, it might be time to like move on or at least get a replacement. Because you know what scares me a little bit is when you have to commit money. If you have to commit money, like as much as I wanted Patrick Queen, I wouldn't want to pay Patrick Queen. But I'm not like one of those guys that crushes the Roquan Smith deal and how much money he's making, because I do think that there's still value at the inside linebacker position, clearly. That's why the Lions drafted Jack Campbell. But you know what I mean? Like, I worry a little bit when it's like, hey, this guy just can't think. We don't want him to think. Like, if somebody said that about me as a football player, I'd be like, are you saying I'm dumb? You know what I mean, though?
That would be the same way I'd feel, yes.
Yeah, so, like, that's my only worry about Quay. So, like, I want to see just this dog, like, this year. You know what I mean? Like, 100-plus tackles, maybe double-digit sacks, depending how they're going to use them. I have no clue. But, like, yeah, I worry. Everybody's, like, just kind of calling this guy, like, brain dumb.
All right, here's another one for you. Justin in Milwaukee tweeted that Joe Barry defense played a lot better down the stretch, and it's the same coach that made De'Vondre Campbell an all-pro with the thinking emoji, right? De'Vondre Campbell responds, "You want to know why we played better? Because I started going and having private meetings with Matt, telling him we needed to be more aggressive. We needed more men and we needed to blitz more. And what happened when they listened to me? Capital letters, we played well and won. It's no coincidence." So Campbell is pretty much saying, the reason this got better and the reason we played better was because I went and told Matt how we should be playing and how this should be handled. And then Matt obviously went to Joe Barry and told Joe Barry, this is how we're going to play kind of going forward.
Yeah, I mean,
again,
maybe
another indictment on Joe Barry if that's actually what went down.
Yeah. I mean, Matt LaFleur wasn't going to be the guy that was going to throw Barry under the bus, though, right? So there's probably some truth there, because we even heard 2 years ago, or last year, I should say, in the exit interviews when Joe Barry was like, "Hey, what do we want to do differently here?" And all the guys were like, "We want to play more man coverage. We want to play more tight man coverage.
Yep.
We don't need to be playing this soft zone coverage. We got to be more aggressive. We got to blitz more." There was probably some truth there. And I think LaFleur probably had his hands a little bit more on the defense, the second half of the season when they made that little bit of a run right there. So, but at the end of the day, again, really quick on De'Vondre Campbell, he sounds like a guy that it's like, he's a free agent. He wants, obviously, a job and to make more money.
Well, now he's with the Niners. He already had
it. Yeah, that's right. But at the time, though, okay, so when this whole tweet storm started, was he with San Francisco yet?
I think so.
He was already there. Because that's what I was wondering.
This happened yesterday.
Because also, obviously you're going to come out and you're going to be like, yeah, I went to LaFleur. I went to the head coach, and I wanted to make these changes while you're trying to get a job. Because, you were just the green dot, the inside linebacker on a defense that didn't live up to the hype with all those first-round picks. So it's kind of like trying to make yourself sound better on your job resume. But yeah, there's probably some truth there. Again, we all know how Joe Barry.
Now, Campbell says he's not bitter, though. The organization didn't even call me to ask me if I wanted to take a pay cut. They just released me after going in the media and saying that me and Aaron Jones were a part of their future plans. They could have just told me the truth. I could easily be bitter, but I'm not.
He sounds pretty bitter, but I mean,
the Aaron Jones thing, that's exactly what Goody did on Aaron Jones. The Campbell thing, I don't remember, but the Jones thing, he definitely was loving him some Aaron Jones at the end of the season, no doubt. And then went to Aaron Jones and asked him to take a 50% pay cut. Now, everybody knew Jones wasn't going to play for the number on his contract. So Jones knew that too. The previous year, he took a $5 million pay cut. And now they come to him this year and say, we want you to take a 50% pay cut. My guess is he probably got wind, or Rosenhaus got wind, of what they were lining up with Josh Jacobs at $12 million a year or whatever it was. And then they were asking him to take a 50% pay cut and said, no, that's cool. I'm out. See you later. Then they signed Jacobs to a deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, man. And everybody was like, oh, Brian Gutekunst said this and Brian Gutekunst said that. Well, Brian Gutekunst, if you like him, if you hate him, he's a general manager of a football team. And that's his job, is to lie to you guys and to do the uncomfortable stuff.
Right.
Try to win Super Bowls, or else he no longer has a job. He gets a longer leash because it's Green Bay and it's owned by, the fans. But that's what happened right there. Really quick, man, on De'Vondre Campbell too. It's just kind of crazy, the numbers. And I know that there was injuries, but I mean, he had 75 tackles only. I get he missed 4 games, but again, scheme, he had a 65.1 Pro Football Focus grade. The year before, when he was bad in 2021, it was an 85. That is absolutely disgusting. So he had the 1 year where he had 146 tackles, 2 sacks,
All-Pro,
and then just completely fell off a cliff. It's actually kind of shocking to look.
Campbell says that first year he didn't know the playbook, that he was just going out there playing. He didn't even know what the playbook was most of the year. He was just going out there and doing what he does and kind of reacting to the thing. And then, 2 years ago and this year now, he's kind of trying to follow along and do what they want with the playbook and so forth. So there you go. All right, take a quick time. I'll come back. Montez Sweat, if you remember, the Bears acquired him and last year during the season, had a great second half of the year after they got him. Then signs a big contract extension. He had some things to say about the Green Bay Packers. in the last couple of days. We'll talk about that up next here on the Curtin Long Podcast. Download on your Odyssey app, or if you download your favorite podcast app, as well as check out the streaming live portion of this, or if you're listening to this and want to go back and see what Ryan and I look like, not sure why, but if you do, the Odyssey Sports YouTube page is there for you too. Hey, it's Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM, The Fan, along with my guy, Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight, part of the BetQL radio network. Don't forget, we are doing local talk radio one more time on 1250 AM The Fan after each and every Milwaukee Bucks game. The Potawatomi Sportsbook Pro Hoops postgame show served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM The Fan. After the final buzzer sounds, you make the switch over, and we talk some Bucks basketball, whatever happened in that game. I try to have a guest every night as well. And, of course, always want as many calls as I can get on those postgame shows. Ryan Horvat, Montez Sweat wasn't a Bear very long second half of the season. That was about the extent of it. Montez Sweat, I think it was Friday, tweets out, I done developed a real rivalry with Green Bay. Blame Preston Smith and Keyshawn Nixon. It's up. With like a purple devil-faced emoji and some other angry-looking emoji as well. And that thing got, 7,700 likes, 842 retweets, 377 comments, and away we go. This is my thing. I don't know what led to this. I have no idea. I was trying to sit there and scroll through all this. I don't know what these two guys did to trigger Montez Sweat. It doesn't really matter to me what they did, to be honest with you. Do you think we could ever get that rivalry back to where it was in the 80s, where these teams actually really do hate each other and really actually do get up for playing one another like they used to with Ellerson and those guys back in the day with McMahon and Dent and Hampton? Can we ever get back to that? Because rivalries like that are pretty much non-existent in sports right now.
Well, I think it just comes down to like the Bears are 13-47 against the Packers since 1994, dude. 13-47. It's hard to call that a rivalry when one team is 47-13 against the other team. And a lot of those wins, like let's look at some of those wins too. I mean, Green Bay beats Chicago and Aaron Rodgers is on one leg. He beats them with a broken leg down 3 scores. The one year they're good and they win the NFC North. Rodgers beat him on one leg, and they would have won the division if Rodgers was healthy the entire season. After that, he was dead, though. Another one of those victories, they knock Aaron Rodgers out. The Shea McClanahan, or whatever the hell his name was, that hit on Rodgers. So, like, a lot of those wins were fluky. So, for it to be a rivalry, I think both teams, have to win some games. I do think that Chicago's going to be better, though, man. They got 2 top 10 picks. They got a ton of cap space. They got a pretty good defense. I don't know if Eberflus is a good head coach, but he's obviously a better defensive mind than they had in anybody else since Lovie Smith. And I think Caleb Williams is going to be awesome. But like when I see this, is this like a joke? Or are these guys all playing around? Because he calls out, like you said, Keyshawn Nixon and Preston Smith. And their responses are great. Like, this ain't a rivalry. But like, are they just messing? There's like, what's Montez Sweat's? I didn't see anything else. Like, what was his beef with those two guys? Like, how did it all begin? Do you know?
I don't know. I was trying to
I didn't know if maybe they were all boys from back in the day just playing on social media. And now Montez Sweat's probably feeling himself because they got that number 1 overall pick. And Caleb Williams, you got to believe in him, right? Like, he's being, comped to Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers.
Do we know for sure if they're taking Caleb Williams?
They're taking Caleb Williams, dude. If they don't take Caleb Williams, Ryan Poles is going to lose his job.
They could take Jaden Daniels.
He's not going to be. I like Jaden Daniels. I love him. I don't think he's as good as Caleb Williams.
But it doesn't matter what you think. It matters what they think. I mean,
Caleb Williams goes 1. Jaden Daniels goes 2. Drake May or Bo Nix are the third quarter. Or not Bo Nix, I'm sorry. Or J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy's going to be a top 10 pick. I think he's a Minnesota Viking.
Everybody thinks he's a Minnesota Viking at this point.
Or a Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I'm kind of rooting for Drake May to be 1 so I can watch Chicago just absolutely lose their minds on Sports Talk Radio because that would be amazing.
No, because I think he might be the best. I think Drake May, I'm going to stick with that, man. Like, Drake May is, I keep asking everybody, like, what's the knock? And it's just the mechanics on Drake May. I mean, and everybody's like, oh, people just like him because he's 6'4". He looks like your classic quarterback. I don't know, man. I think Drake May is going to be awesome.
I mean, think about it. A quarterback that played in the state of North Carolina playing for the Bears again. I mean, it worked out well the last time. I think he just You just try it again and see what happens. But sure, Bisky. I mean, what are you gonna do? I don't know. I don't buy this is going to be a rivalry anytime soon. Like you said, the Bears just have to get significantly better quicker. But even back when it was the Bears and Packers in the 80s, Packers weren't that good. Bears were dominant, but that was a rivalry. Why? Because there were fights and cheap shots. The coaches hated each other, all that stuff. And now, what coaches dislike each other in the league? Is there two coaches that really can't stand each other that get up for playing each other? And I mean, that doesn't exist anymore. Like, all of these guys are boys. Maybe they'll have an issue and then they'll be hanging out at the combine together, going to the bar or whatever. For those that still go to the combine, LaFleur doesn't. But that type of stuff, I don't know. That, like I said, the rivalry aspect in sports, I think, has gone away.
No, I think there's still some coaches, though, that don't like each other, man. I mean, remember the LaFleur Zimmer thing? That was great. Yeah. Zimmer wouldn't even look at him or shake his hand. I think I think that there's, trying to think right now off the top of my head if there is like a coach rivalry. Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head, man. Like, because a lot of those old crab asses are gone now, though.
Yes.
Like, Belichick's gone. A lot of the fiery guys, like, if Vrabel doesn't have a head coaching gig right now, they're all boys, man. Shanny, McVay, they're all friends. Yeah, it's like
McDaniel.
They're all buddies now when you think about it. Salah, somehow he still has a job. Yeah, and then it's like all family members too.
D'Amico Ryans, he's part of that group out in Houston. Yeah.
That's a good point. It's kind of like the NBA, man. Like everybody just gets along. Here's the thing. It's hard for real rivalries in sports, except for for psychopaths like that Isaiah Stewart guy for the Detroit Pistons, who's just like clubbing guys in the back of the head. It's hard to have a rivalry when you're making so much freaking money. Because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, let's all just protect. It's like Marshawn said, you protect your mentals, your chickens. And at the end of the day, you know what I mean? These guys, they're making so much money now. It's hard to go out there and really hate somebody, man. Because at the end of the day, you could do whatever you want after that game. I mean, yeah, there's not a whole lot of rivalries in pro sports right now.
No, there's just really not. Back in the day, the Brewers hated La Russa. And the Cardinals, the Crows be like, screw that guy, whatever else. I mean, that type of stuff, it just doesn't exist anymore. To me, it's sad as a fan. I mean, as a player, I'm sure they're fine with it, that we're all friends and we all get along and it's just a game. But back in the day when us older folk used to watch games, these dudes were beyond dead serious over each and every one of these little games, kind of going for Bulls and the Pistons back in the day, right? The bad boy Pistons against the Jordan-led Bulls. That was a fight. The Knicks and the Heat for years. That was a fight every time they faced each other. I got none of that stuff anymore. Take a quick time. I'll come back on the other side. Talk about something rare. Something very, very rare. The Packers still with a bunch of cap space and a bunch of picks. We'll discuss that next. Kurt and Long. Download on your Odyssey app. Or if you download your favorite podcast app, check us out on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page as well. Hey, it's Sparky, Fifer, 1250 AM, The Fan, beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. First day of spring coming up Tuesday, March 19th. How about it? We survived another winter. Barely any snow in Wisconsin. Very happy about that. You can follow me on Twitter at Sparky Radio. You can follow Ryan Horvat of BetMGM tonight at Ryan Horvat. How is the snow out there on the East Coast, out in the D.C. area where you are?
It snows every 2 years, and it's terrible because the first time it happened, I almost died on the highway, and then the last time, a couple months ago, when my tire blew out and I got stuck on the highway for 2 hours, man. I actually took out my life insurance policy that day. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to die on this highway. Nobody could come help me. So on the East Coast here in DC, if it snows, they shut everything down. First year, they were like, we're getting an inch of snow. Everybody's freaking out. We can't go into the studio. I'm like, you guys serious? In the Midwest, we drive in like 12 inches of snow.
Yeah, but they get snow on the East Coast all the time.
They don't salt the roads, and there's like no plows. They don't know what to do. Yeah, man, and like nobody knows how to drive in it. So you're just driving on like sheets of ice. They don't do anything for it because it only happens once every 2 years where it snows. This year was actually pretty bad, though. We had like one time it was like 4 inches. The other it was like 3 inches. It was a mess, but yeah, it sucks. It's terrible out here when it snows.
I don't understand. The East Coast, I thought doesn't the East Coast gets less snow than the Midwest, you're saying then? I
don't know about like New York but like here in DC, yeah, it It doesn't snow in DC, and I live in Maryland in Bethesda, so it never snows here ever. It like doesn't even get that cold, to be honest with you.
That's wild. I mean, it sounds like living in Dallas, Texas, back in that Super Bowl where they had an ice storm and everything else, and they had like 2 snow plows, and they're trying to lay dirt and sand on the road, trying to melt the ice that way, and it was a complete fiasco, but they legitimately hardly ever get snow. So, okay, I kind of understand what that's about. DC, like I would think you'd get as much snow as we get here in Wisconsin. Apparently I was wrong.
I honestly, I thought that too when I moved here, and I was like, wait, it doesn't snow? People are like, no, and when it does, you just stay home.
That's wild.
I figured they were just cowards, and no, they're right. You do not drive in the snow here. It's terrible.
That is wild. All right, let's wrap this bad boy up. I just want to quickly, for a couple minutes here, go over the cap space and the draft pick situation for the Packers. Packers right now, according to Spot Track, updated top 51 cap space. Packers are at $25 million right now, which is the 11th most cap space in the NFL. You brought up the Bears earlier. They're 31.7 million. They're in 5th. The Lions are at 31 million in 6th. Minnesota, 19.3 million. They're in 15th. That wraps up the NFC North. Also pointed out earlier today as well, Tom Silverstein pointed out the Packers did not convert roster bonuses due to Jair Alexander and Elton Jenkins to signing bonuses in order to save cap space. Both were paid on their due date March 5th. That leaves about $10 million in base salary between the two that could be converted later if needed. That would get them up to about $40 million in cap space for the Green Bay Packers, which is simply amazing. And then the other one, draft picks. Once you get past all the trades, compensatory picks, and all that other stuff, the Packers are one of 4 teams to lead the NFL with 11 draft picks, Horvat. They got 11 draft picks. Them, Arizona, Buffalo, and the Rams. This is about as pretty as the Packers have been sitting in an offseason in any type of recent memory that I can think of. 11 draft picks, $30+ million in cap space with a chance to add another 10 if they want to get to 40 as we sit here at the end of March is truly amazing.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do here. I wonder if they're going to be aggressive with trades, and because that's the thing, man. Like with Goot coming out, spending some money on Josh Jacobs, spending some money at the safety position. Thank God, $25 million year one is a little steep, but hey, it is what it is. That's the market for a safety, I guess. And I wonder if they're going to try to get another safety, one of these other guys. I don't know, or else if they're just going to look to draft one. You know what I mean? Because these guys, some of these guys are pretty cheap right now. If you want to go out and take a flyer with these dudes, I would. And then draft
a deal, 1 year, prove a deal to somebody like Simmons or whoever you want it to be.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe like
draft the safety.
Yeah, and then you draft a safety. I would love that, and then you actually have depth at the position because you need depth at that position, and injuries are going to happen, especially with the Green Bay Packers. I just wonder if maybe just because like the NFL's changed so much. Remember, it used to be like, oh, the NBA, this league, and guys were on new teams every year. That's kind of becoming the NFL, especially like these wide receivers. I don't think they're going to make a deal for a T. Higgins. But what if like another pass rusher gets really pissed off for some reason or somebody else? I just wonder if they're going to look to make a deal maybe, or if they're just going to use all these draft picks and just build for the future because they're almost in win now mode. You know what I mean? Like 3 years ago, they were trying to almost like rebuild while try to win, I guess, because they drafted Jordan Love and a bunch of young guys that weren't going to make a difference really year one. Even last year, the Van Ness pick was more for the future. That's just what I'm wondering. Are they going to look to draft a bunch of day one guys that are going to contribute, or are they going to look to maybe trade some of these picks for somebody else? I don't know, because they could really do whatever they want right now. And it hasn't been the case for a while. Other than, that first year for Goot, really, when he spent money, on Preston Zadarius and Adrian Amos. That's why I'm curious to see what they do here. Are they going to move back in the draft? Because now they can really do whatever they want now that they went out and got a new safety. You need to tackle now with Bakhtiari gone. You need some depth on the offensive line, but it's going to be awesome.
Need a linebacker in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, they do need that, of course. Yeah. But I don't know, like, are you going to draft early on that position?
No, probably not in the first round. No.
Right. No. But I mean, like, how late are you going to go at that position? Or are you going to try to find a vet? I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, you got Trotters out there. You got Cooper is out there from Texas A&M. I mean, there's some guys that might be worth taking there in the second or third round.
That's what I mean.
If you want to go that way. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that whole thing plays out. He is Ryan Horvat. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. BetMGM tonight, weeknights. Him, Trista Crick, Nick Ashu. They give you in-game betting advice, tell you what you can do in the West Coast games, give you some future bets too. You can follow me at Sparky Radio. Don't forget the Potawatomi Sportsbook Pro Hoops post-game show, served up by Wendy's after each and every Milwaukee Bucks game throughout the remainder of the regular season and postseason. After the final buzzer, you switch over to 1250 AM The Fan on your radio dial and listen and call in and have some fun, or you can stream us as well on your Odyssey app. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one. We'll be back on Wednesday. Toodles.